I'm audible, right? Okay. So you see, in the last class, we were discussing the strategies for automation, isn't it? What are those 10 strategies that will help us to better automate whatever is it that we are trying to automate? Yes. Basically a process, isn't it? So we want to automate a process. We saw that the principle of automation, one of the principle is USA principle. Uh, that before you start automating, you have to look at those three things that USA: understand, simplify, and automate. Right? You have to first understand the process, and then uh, basically what all that process contains, the inputs and outputs, right? The different values of the steps. What is it that we will attain after a certain step, value analysis. And then understand, after understand you have simplify. Basically you try to simplify it, combine it, or removing the step altogether, right? Redundant steps. So after that you come to automate, like you automate it: understand, simplify, and automate. So how do you automate? You have 10 strategies. That's what we were discussing, right? So we saw that the first one was specialization of operations, right? Combine operations, trying to combine so that we have the workpiece going to reduce number of workstations, right? Simultaneous operations, if you can perform the operations simultaneously. So it was an extension of combined operations, right? And then integration of operations, right? You link up of the several workstations, right? So that even that time can be saved. And we have this automated work handling that will save the non-productive time, increase flexibility, applying of the flexible automation concepts, right? All of these primarily they will help us to reduce the setup time, that is the time required to start uh, the processing, isn't it? Like the fixing of the workpiece, or the tool setup. Okay. So all of that, this will help us reduce the setup time. All of these strategies will help us reduce the setup time, maximizing productivity, also reducing of the work in process, and decreasing the manufacturing lead time, that is the time to dispatch the product. So improve material handling and storage, right? And online inspection, right, in between the processes, if you can online inspect it, rather than having the inspection at the end of the process, like the finished product, you can have it in between so that we can reduce the scrap. If at all, when products are found to be non-conforming to specifications, we can scrap them. So that will save the machining time that was to come, and also it will save the cost associated to it. And then what the next strategy is process control and optimization, right? So includes a wide range of control schemes intended to operate the individual processes and associated equipment more efficiently. So we are trying to control the process, right, and optimize it also. So there are different control schemes, like you use sensors, etc., to see whether if you can optimize a process, right? Controlling the process and then optimizing it. Individual process times can be reduced and process quality can be improved. So like you can apply the principles of industrial engineering to see whether if you can reduce the work time, the work cycle. Okay. And also improve of the product quality, checking of the statistics, right? After after you've gained some experience producing the component, you can even improve the product quality, right? And plant operations control, concerned with control at the plant level. So if you can attempts to manage and coordinate the aggregate operations in the plant more efficiently. Implementation usually involves a high level of computer networking within the factory. So you can say that if the workstations are connected, you have a networking, a high level of computer networking, then only you can have this plant operations control. So that will help you to better automate, isn't it? When you have workstations which are connected to each other, so that will help us in coordination. Like if a certain machine is not working, then we can reroute the components to other machine, right? That coordination is possible when you have plant level of operation control. We have seen in the levels of automation you have plant level of automation also. So that helps us to better automate, isn't it? More the automation, more the level of automation you have, better is the productivity that you'll get out of it. Yes, it will cost more, but the benefits that you achieve when you have plant level of automation control, then that is what is meant here. Other strategy is computer integrated manufacturing. We have seen this, right? The concept of sim takes the previous strategy one level higher. So that plant level operation, what we're doing, plant level automation, is this 10th strategy is an upgraded version, you can say, of the previous strategy. So you have integration of factory operations with engineering, design, and business functions of the firm. So not just the design and manufacturing aspects, but also the business functions. We've seen that SIM covers the scope of not just CAD CAM, but also the business functions, right? The accounting, uh, the sales, etc. So sales order even. So all of that is taken into consideration. So that's when we call it computer integrated manufacturing. Involves extensive use of computer applications, computer databases, and computer networking throughout the enterprise. So if you can do it throughout the enterprise, right? Not just design and manufacturing, but even including the business functions, as I said. So as obvious, it will involve extensive use of computer applications. So you have this concept called ERP, right? Enterprise Resource Planning. So basically ERP is what implements SIM. Okay, we have seen this, right? So doubts regarding these three strategies that we discussed just now? No doubts? Okay. You see, another strategy is automation migration strategy. Okay, this comes into picture when you have already you're trying to migrate, isn't it? That's what it means, automation migration strategy. You're trying to migrate from one system of production to another system. Okay, so if the product turns out to be successful and high future demand is anticipated, then it makes sense for the company to automate production, right? When there's already a product in the market, you have been producing that product and it has turned out to be successful. Okay, the demand is high, and presently it is high, and you're anticipating it that the high future demand would be high. Okay, so then it makes sense for the company to automate production, isn't it? So that we can have more products produced per unit time, and that will help us to achieve that demand that is from the market. So automation migration strategy is a formalized plan, isn't it, for evolving the manufacturing system used to produce new products as demand grows. So the demand is growing. So you now have a formalized plan that you want to change the manufacturing system, right? Evolve it, change, take it to another level so that you can have more and more production. So automation migration strategy, we can call it as a formalized plan. Okay, improvements are often carried out in phases. We'll see there are phases in automation migration strategy. You see, phase one. So you have manual production using single station man cells. So operating independently. Okay, used for introduction of the new product for reasons already mentioned. Quick and low cost tooling to get started. So you have a new product that you want to introduce in the market. Okay, so the phase one that you want to, if you want to go into automated workflow, then the first phase that you should look for is manual production only. Okay, do not directly go to automation. You started with manual production using single station manned cells. Okay, we'll see that we have a diagram that will illustrate this. So you start with manual production, okay, used for introduction of the new product for reasons already mentioned, quick and low cost tooling to get started. So you have because the tooling etc that you can procure, right, quick and low cost tooling, okay, because you're only doing it manually now in phase one. Okay, you see in this diagram, you see this graph which is between the product demand on the y-axis and the time on the x-axis. The time is basically we have divided into phase one, phase two, and phase three. Okay, so this basically indicates the time or the phases, and the y-axis indicates the product demand. Okay, so you see initially the demand is increasing. You have just introduced a product into the market. So in phase one, the product demand is increasing over time. Okay, as and when you are producing over time, the product demand is increasing. But you see, we are still producing manually. We have manual production system, one station cells. You see, we have defined it is illustrated here. The phase one, how is it done? When we say manual production, what we are doing is, you see here manual workstations, right? There are workers, starting work units. These workers are manually doing it on those workstations, taking help of those workstations. These workers are performing the processes or assembly, etc. Okay, so you have in between work in process, right? Once after the first workstation, this the products come out, and you have manual handling. You see here manual handling. The entities you see in between are humans who are manually handling those incomplete work parts. Okay, from the first workstation to the next, and then etc. Okay, so there is manual work handling. 2 points to note: manual workstations and manual handling. Okay, and also there are workers who are doing the processes or assembly, etc. Okay, so that's how the completed work units are produced. That's what we mean by manual production, right? Is that clear? Phase one. Okay, so that is the first phase, manual production. The next phase, you see, automated production. So this automated production using single station automated cells. Okay, now we have single station but automated cells. They're operating independently because you see they are not connected, right? That's why we are saying operating independently. Then they have no links with other workstations, isn't it? Because the work handling is also, I mean, the material handling is also manual, right? Still in the second phase also you have manual work handling. We'll see in the diagram. So that's why we are calling it operating independently. Is that clear? For the first two phases, I've written in the bracket operating independently because of the reason that they are not connected to other workstations, right? So they are doing their own job irrespective of the other workstations. So as demand for the product grows and it becomes clear that automation can be justified, then the single stations are automated to reduce labor and increase production rate. You see, so now you have automated those manual workstations. Okay, why? To reduce labor and increase the production rate, isn't it? Because to automate that would result in more units being produced, because as we know machines are faster. So that's how increase of production rate. Work units are still moved between workstations manually. The work handling, the material handling is still manual. You see in the second phase, we ended here in the graph, manual production. Now second phase has started. there is still a rise of product demand, right, as the time is progressing. So in the phase 2, the demand is increasing. So because you have now seen that the product demand is still high and there is good response from the market, you have decided to automate it. So automated production, so manual workstations are replaced with automated workstations now. Okay, so these are the work units, automated work cells, right? They are finished, but the manual work handling is still manual. Okay, manual handling of the work pieces in between the two automated workstations. Okay, so and that's how those are produced. So you see, one station sells, okay, automated production. So the demand is still now rising. Okay, that's about your second phase. As I said, workstations, in between the workstations, you have still manual work handling. When it comes to phase 3, that is what we are calling automated integrated production using a multi-station automated system. Okay, so we are calling it multi-station because now those stations are linked, okay, with each other. So automated integrated production using a multi-station automated system with serial operations and automated transfer of work units between stations. So you have automated transfer of work units now in third phase. So it was only possible when you have this automated transfer of work units, right? Only then can you achieve more level of automation, right? That even the transfer of work parts has to be automated. So that's what this third phase indicates. You see in the graph, the demand is rising, but then the demand goes to be constant over time. So there is a constant demand. So that means the product has matured, you can say, saturated. So the demand is constant. The demand has not decreased or increased, but it is constant from the market. So it is then you decide that we will go for automated work handling, not just automated workstations, but also automated work handling. So when the company is certain that the product will be produced in mass quantities, right, and for several years, then integration of the single station automated cells is warranted to further reduce labor and increase production rate. So only when you are sure that the demand of the product will be constant now, then you go for integration of those single station automated cells. Okay, so that you can have mass production, right, even greater than the second phase. Okay, so that will increase the production rate and reduce the labor, because that complete work handling is now automated instead of manual. So that's the last step, last phase. So that's automation migration strategy. You have migrated from manual production all the way through to automated production, not just automated, uh, multi-station automated system with automated work handling, right? So that's what we mean, migration from one phase to the other. So is this diagram clear about automation migration strategy? No doubts, right? Okay, so okay, so what are the advantages of this automation migration strategy? That it allows the introduction of the new product in the shortest possible time. How is it that we are saying it that you can introduce a product in the shortest possible time? Because you see, initially we are going for manual production, right? We are not uh, going for automation right from the first phase. We are starting with manual production. We are seeing how the market responds, right, about as regards to the demand of the product. So since production sales based on manual workstations are the easiest to design and implement, so we can agree that automated workstations are complex. The time required to design them, right, based out of the product features and the different components that you're going to put in those automated systems, that requires time, not just time but cost. So as regards to time, yes, we can say it's the shortest possible time if you are starting with manual production system. Okay, that's why we are saying that we can introduce the product into the market in the shortest possible time. When we have the product design ready and we want to introduce the product into the market, you have to decide the manufacturing setup. And when you start with manual production, you can introduce the product in the shortest possible time. That's what is meant. Okay, so and then allows automation to be introduced gradually, that is in planned phases, as demand for the product grows. So as demand for the product grows, engineering changes in the product are made and time is allowed to do a thorough design job on the automated manufacturing system. So you're gradually introducing automation. We can agree, right? Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So you're gradually introducing the automation in planned phases. As demand for the product grows, engineering changes in the product. So you see, I told you that uh, there are changes in the product, right? There could be customer inputs, right? Feedback from the customer that certain features are not good. You can optimize that. Certain features are not required, right? You can introduce some more features. So as per the design from the market, I'm sorry, as per the feedback from the market, your product design will change. There will be engineering changes in the product design, right? We can agree that when a product is released and after a certain months or years, we see that there are changes in the product. There are engineering changes, design changes. So those are based out of either the company itself is doing some R&D, right? That they are giving the inputs to improve it, also taking the customer input as a feedback. So that's what we mean by engineering changes in the product. Okay, so to include that, okay, into the product design, you are introducing the automation gradually. Okay, so that we can make those changes. If for example we had gone for direct automation in the first phase itself, and after 6 months you find there are some changes in the product design that you have to do because the customer needs some modifications, addition of some features, but you cannot do it because your automated production line is not accommodating those changes. You're not able to do that. So that becomes a problem now. You see, what I'm talking about is fixed automation. So if you have done fixed automation right in the screen is visible, right? Yes, is the screen visible? Okay, so you see, if we are going for fixed automation right from the first phase, then it becomes a problem to accommodate, because you have seen that the feature of fixed automation is that it is inflexible to accommodate the product changes, right? So that is why we are firstly going for manual kind of production and then slowly and gradually introducing the automation so that all these can be done, engineering changes can be made, and there is time to do a thorough design job in the automated manufacturing system itself. Not just the product but also the manufacturing system that you have designed. You can accommodate, you can change, you can come up with a better design, right? Because there is time, right? From the first phase to the second phase, there's certain time, there's some time that you have, that you can better design the automated manufacturing system itself. that how should it be set up, right? Based out of the product design and the cost constraints, the material constraints, space constraints, etc. Okay, so also it avoids the commitment to a higher level of automation from the start, since there is always a risk that demands for the product will not justify it. So there is no commitment involved, isn't it? Avoids the commitment to a high level of automation right from the start. So in the beginning, you're just looking at how the market responds. So you're not giving a commitment that the product will sustain, right? You're not sure. That is why we are saying it avoids the commitment to a high level automation right from the beginning. In the third phase, you're going for more level of automation, right? So, or you can even call it the second phase. So since there is always there is the demand for the product will not justify it. The product, if the demand is not from the market, then there will be a considerable loss, right? Significant loss because of that. So this is clear, right? Automation migration strategy, or any doubts? No, right? Okay. You see, now the next thing is uh, pneumatic system. Okay, because when we are automating the system, there will be certain components involved, right? Systems would be involved to operate the automated system. So one system is a pneumatic system, right? That is able to operate the machine or material handling system, etc. So we'll see what are the basic components of a pneumatic system, because this will be installed, right? In your automated system, you'll have pneumatic system, you'll have. Okay, so the basic components of a pneumatic system, okay, you can see in the diagram here that we all know what do we mean by pneumatic system, right? What is a pneumatic system? What is a driving medium in a pneumatic system? Just so that we are clear. Air, yes. So you are using air, or to be precise, compressed air, to control devices, okay, in simple terms. So you see here, there's an air compressor here, right? And this air compressor, how is it operating? With the help of this motor. This motor is trying to uh, this motor is the source, input source for this air compressor to work. Okay, so and the motor is requires a power supply. So this is that, and the air compressor takes in the air from the atmosphere, right? You have an air filter to filter the impurities, or right, from the atmosphere, okay, unwanted particles from the atmosphere, because this will now this air, compressed air, will be sent to the devices and they'll be in contact with it. So we don't want any kind of corrosion, or any kind of uh, what do you call, corrosion, or degradation of the components involved, right? So that's why this air filter is installed. So you have this air from the atmosphere, air filter, the air is compressed, and because after compression, as we know, that the pressure of the air increases and therefore the temperature increases. So to cool down the air, you have the air cooler, right? And then it goes to a storage reservoir, right? This storage reservoir, as the name suggests, will store the compressed air for it to be supplied later. right? And this storage reservoir, as you can see, is connected to a pressure switch. So this pressure switch opens when set pressure is reached. So if at all there is, because for the motor to know when to stop, okay, or when to start, there has to be a coordination, right? So this switch will provide a communication, okay. Then you will have some cutoff temperature or threshold threshold pressure or cutoff pressure, right? So that serves as a communication. And this compressed air from the storage reservoir will now be sent to this valve, okay. This valve will control whether it is to be sent to B or A, okay. So you have these three uh, what do you call, three options here, or three different settings of this control valve, right? One being off position, two being the raise, and three lower. So basically raise in the sense this load what is there will be raised, okay. If you want to raise it, so that's in your, that's your second setting. If you want to lower this load, that's your third setting. So how does it do that? This valve will control the flow of air, compressed air. If it goes to B, you see, if it goes to B, then it will fill up this volume, right? And it will try to impose pressure, increase the pressure on this, right? Okay. So if there is more pressure here, if the control valve has sent the air to B, then this, that compressed air will fill up this volume and apply a pressure on this side of the, what do you call, let us call it a piston, okay. So when there is pressure here, it will try to move down, right? So that's basically lowering of it, right? So if you send it to B, the load or whichever is it that we want to do, okay, it's not just a load as in some weight. There could be anything that we are trying to operate or move, okay. So it will move that load. If the direction control valve sends it through A, okay, to A, not to B, to A, then it will fill up the volume here and it will try to, because of the increase of pressure, it will try to push this piston up. So that's what that's what raises the load, okay, when you're sending it to A. So we can do this using the control valve. Lowering and raising of the load can be done when this control valve sends the compressed air to different ports, right? And this is the air to atmosphere, the relief valve, you can say, okay. If it reaches critical pressure, okay, air can be released to the atmosphere. Is this diagram clear? Yes, is that clear? You see, pneumatic actuator, what does it do? It converts the fluid power into mechanical power, okay, into mechanical power to perform useful work. That's what the actuator is supposed to do, right? To actuate or to perform, right? So how does it do? It converts the fluid power into mechanical power. So you see that compressed air has fluid power, right? So we are converting that fluid power into mechanical power. So that actuator does it. And compressor, as we know, is used to compress the fresh air drawn from the atmosphere. Storage reservoir is used to store a given volume of compressed